The first episode left our characters alone and searching. But for what? And for whom? Where would they find fulfillment? Purpose? Love? Love springs eternal in the city of lights, as they say. And in this installment, I discuss whether our characters found it. Marvelous Miss Maisel, Season 2, Episode 2, Midway to Midtown. It achieved a score of 8.7 on IMDb. And as usual, I break down the demographics and present the highest average score from a particular demographic and then the lowest average score, and to see what kind of story that tells. And for the Marvelous Miss Maisel, it scored highest in the demographic of women over 45. It scored a 9.3. And the lowest score was in the demographic of males over 45. It scored an 8.3, a 1-point difference. And just like last week, the scores in the other demographics were consistent. So males and females under 18, males and females 18 to, I think it's like 29. Those scores were similar. But that one demographic of over 45, the scores have been wide for both weeks. So that tells an interesting story to me. What exactly it says, I'm not sure, just because the other demographics are equivalent. The male and female demographic among the other age groups are about the same. So, you would guess that means that for some reason the show doesn't appeal to males over 45, but you could say it's a small sample size. To me, that's what the statistic reads, that for males over 45, for some reason, it maybe just slightly appeals less to them. I'm over 45 myself, so I don't personally understand that. But those are the numbers. Directed by Amy Sherman-Palladino and also written by Amy Sherman-Palladino. However, there are a couple story editors, and I did send a tweet to the show asking what the role of those story editors are. Are they more really like writers and Amy Palladino just kind of gives the general story? Or are they more script doctors that work on specific scenes? I'm not sure. But to give credit to those story editors, they are Noah Gardenswartz. Noah Gardenswartz. I was right the first time. And Jen Kirkman. And then the director of photography was M. David Mullen. I'm not sure if that's just because it's the same. Like, those credits are the same for both episodes. So I'm not sure if on IMDb we're getting the accurate credits for each individual episode, or if it's just general credits for the entire season. I guess by the third episode we should see if it's same again for director, writer, and then director of photography. Then I would strongly suspect it's just credits for the whole season, not episodic credits. Now, the plot for the episode, provided, as always, by Amazon Prime. Midge and Susie continue building Midge's stand-up career, despite Midge's reluctance to tell her family and friends. Abe and Rose enjoy a new lifestyle. Joel offers some business advice to his parents and makes an effort to do right by Midge. And then let's discuss that. Give me a second. I'm a little parched. Behind the scenes, it took me about 2.5 hours to get this set up. I have a pop screen I'm using for the first time, and just getting everything set up today, including the pop screen, and I was trying new lighting, but that didn't work. Whew, it took forever. 2 hours. Oh my goodness. Anyway, that's why I'm parched. Okay, let's discuss the story. So this plot summary began with Midge and Susie. And those are the main characters, more or less. Let's start with Midge and Susie. Let's talk about the opening of the episode with Susie in the Midge's parents' home. That was great. I really love that actress. Um, I'll find her. It is, oops, Alex Borstein. She's so funny. The scene when Midge's friend comes in and finds her in a bathtub and the whole bo- she's used the whole bottle of bathtub bubbles, and she's also found Midge's stash of pot and got a little woozy there, a little high. And Midge's friend wants to know just who the F are you? And she's like, "Oh man, you gotta slow down. You're just a big white box with words coming out. I can't understand anything right now." And that was great. And it kind of we were given two that was fish out of water, more or less. Susie and Midge's parents' home was a fish out of water storyline. And the the story of I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit. Abe and Rose in Paris is also a little bit of a fish out of water, at least in episode one, especially when Midge and Abe get there. Those two storylines paralleled each other in this episode, where those characters were taken out of their natural environment and were shown just how what do they learn from being in a new place. And for Susie, she was able to build relationship with, I believe his name is Nate, the son of Midge, and she had kind of been kid phobic earlier. There's the scene where her and Abe are, I believe it, no, Abe is the father. I don't remember the name of the kid. Hold on, this will be a good chance for me to just look it up. So give me 1 second, I'll be right back. And the son's name is Ethan. And I also looked up the friend's name, which is Imogene. That's Midge's friend. So Midge and Susie, their plot line culminates with Midge's performance at the Midtown nightclub, where she's first given the third spot in the lineup, and then bumped down to fourth and eventually moved down yet again. And the implication is it's because she's given less respect, in large part because she's a woman. And we know that also is true because the sexist comments, the jokes that the other comedians make about her, the lack of respect she's given. And when she takes the stagehand walks away from the spotlight, and so Susie has to man it. And what I liked about that, there is the feminist angle, and I think also in conjunction with that important theme of the show, it also played into her character because she was presented as being very harried and very, very stressed, and we know that is when she really shines. And what I also liked about it, and it wasn't really commented upon, but it's there. If you remember back to Joel, season 1, episode 1, Midge meets him at the office. This is like, near the end of the episode. And he's harried because his friends are going to be at the show that night, and he wants to get on early so that they can watch. And when she gives him the sweater, the holes are in the sweater. I can't remember what ate into it. Moth ate into the sweater. And he's like, "Look at this. I can't wear this. Everyone will be looking at the holes in my sweater." And she said, "Well, use that in your bit. Make a joke about how that must have been done by Sam," or some similar joke like that. And he was undone. He didn't feel loose. He was not used to using things from his life. He had stolen his whole act from Bob Newhart. So when he tried to improvise, he fell flat, couldn't do it. Midge, on the other hand, she gets some mustard on her dress, and between that and the other comedians paying her lack of respect, she uses that to improvise her material for her 10-minute set. And of course, it goes off maybe even better than if she had used her prepared material. So, and that was a great way to define her character, that she feeds off adversity. That's where she gets her art. That's where she gets her creativity. And in the end, even if she wasn't given the respect she deserved, it was kind of like a personal triumph for her and Susie. Second storyline, the B storyline, Abe and Rose, that took a twist. I was not expecting it, because at the end of episode 1, we were shown that Abe was on the outside looking in on Rose's new life, and it did not appear that she was going to accommodate him. And the unexpected happened, because we're so used to Abe being a very staid and by the numbers character. Instead, he opened up and got kind of wild, and we find him arguing with Parisian intellectuals, and their mid-spring romance blossoms into a full-on musical number, a dance number, something I talked about before in episode 1. We were given a musical number without singing or dancing. Well, here we're given a musical number but with the dancing. The song being What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. And I'm not sure if that was the Seine, the River Seine. Oh my goodness, I should look that up. S-I-E-N-E, Seine. Me stupid American. I'm not sure what river that is. I know they really did film in France, and in Paris, I mean, even more to the point, because Tony Shalhoub was on one of the talk shows this week, and he talked about spending time in Paris. So that was all legit. It was not green screen, and it was a wonderful scene. However, this is kind of meta, but once, and here's another parallel. There are many parallels drawn in the episode, but the parallel between Midge being given an apartment by Joel and Rose finding an apartment and inviting Abe to come along, or just kind of saying, this is our apartment. I took one look at that apartment. I knew it's done. They're not living in France. It was very, like I said, very meta. It was a Steadicam shot, and in that room, in the whole apartment, there were mirrors on all 4 walls and all these windows. And I thought to myself, there's no way a Steadicam operator is going to work in that room for 10 episodes. It's just going to be too much stress and work. And it was very artful. I love the Steadicam work in this show. The reason why that's a concern is you don't want the mirror, you don't want the camera, the angle of the camera to be such that the mirror shows the cameraman, reveals the cameraman filming the scene. So you always have to kind of get in obliquely. Yeah, I think you can see it. So that coming at this angle, the mirror won't pick up the cameraman. And if you watch that scene again, I don't know if you paid attention to it. Like I said, for me it was very meta, but I noticed it because I think I've been following the Steadicam work in the show. I just love it so much. But I took one look at the room. I thought, wonder, how is he going to do it? Or she, although I do know the DP is a man. And if you watch that scene, he comes in at corners, and then when he wants to get over here, you see him, the camera backs up like that. It's like kind of like reversing a 3-point reverse. I just thought, there's no way there's going to be 10 episodes of that. And then in that very scene, Abe talks about how he's just on vacation, and honey, we're going back. This is only temporary. And then the question became, is Rose going to return? Abe makes the appeal to her that the family's better back in New York, and she does return. And that's the theme, one of the main themes of the show, which I'm going to discuss after we finish talking about the plot, which is about women finding freedom in that era, bringing jeopardy to the marriage. That the marriage strains under the freedom. If women were to be as free as the men, the marriage wouldn't function. Let's see. I think we have one more plot line, Joel's plot line. Well, this was unanticipated. I said that I think I was guessing. I'm I have not seen the whole season. I'm recording after I watch each episode. So my guess was that that episode, the lowest Joel could be, given the curse of getting what he wanted and realizing that was the last thing he needed, that he was going to be reformed, that he would find maturity and responsibility. I did not expect the very next episode him to shape up the way he did. Now that has me worried. The reason why that has me worried, now we have, I think there are 10 episodes in the season, episode 2, 8 more episodes. Where else can that arc go? He's not going to develop any further. They've shown him, he might get more of what he wants. They show that Joel is going to be helping with the parents, and maybe he'll achieve that, but he's actualized. He is more on top of it than his father and his mom are. So where does that go for 8 more episodes? So my worry is now it's going to peak, and then we'll be given the challenge, the peril that Joel will slide back, that his newfound responsibility will be maybe not to his own liking, that we're presented with responsible Joel. The only place left for them, the writers, to go now is to jeopardize that, put that into conflict. That's my worry, because 8 episodes is a long time to maintain an arc. Either that or you make his character really flat, and I don't see that. I don't see that happening. So my guess is now we're going to be given, now that we've seen responsible Joel, we'll be given the threat, the danger to that. And finally, my thoughts about one of the themes in this episode, which was about female empowerment and the conflict that had with traditional roles, men and women roles. And we see that both Midge and Rose are finding themselves getting into conflict with the significant men in their life, just as they find their freedom. For Midge, even though she's already left her husband, she had a desire to return to him, he was unable to bring himself to take her back. He didn't have the courage to do it because her comedy represented freedom, and that was a challenge to his masculinity. And then she, in turn, found her freedom being challenged by the gift that Joel brings to her about midway through the episode of the apartment. Because for her, it will mean maybe giving up comedy since she'll have to take care of the children. And it's assumed she is the one that's going to take care of the children, not the husband. And we find that she is very angry. She has a lot of anger for Joel because she realizes that this gift represents loss of freedom for her, and it's not something would happen to a man. A man that was estranged from a woman, such as Joel, would be able to find their own place, and no one would question that they should give up their career to look after the children, like Midge is being faced with the possibility of doing. And then for Rose, we see that she had to leave also to find freedom because her role as a housewife wasn't stimulating enough for her. And that she has greater ambitions in her self-development, and they aren't being fulfilled just by being a housewife. And we see her growth in a couple of ways. She prepares a meal that what's his head, Tony Shalhoub, Abe can't even tell if it's fish or meat or what it is. He gives it to the dogs and says, maybe you can figure it out. But at the end of the episode, when the university, what's the name, is it proctor? Not a proctor, but the head of the university, or maybe the department's coming over, and Abe wants to talk about France and share a French meal with him. And I think Zelda is the maid, is going to just make a goulash and call it French. And Rose steps up and says, well, I'll make a French dish, which that may have been the dish she prepared for Abe earlier in the episode, now that I think about it. Well, we can guess maybe she's become a better cook. I don't know why, but that was one way that she found her role. And then the second way, just like Midge, she's given a chance to fulfill some of her own ambition, but it's at a cost. So she can audit some classes at the university, art courses, but she has to rely upon Abe's noblesse oblige in order to be able to do that. She's not able to do that on her own. She requires the assistance of a man because she doesn't have enough agency in her world to be able to do that. So the nuance of the era is presented in those two conflicts of women finding freedom, but then also finding conflict and unhappiness from that freedom. And in many ways, more freedom than other women of that era could have. One, in case you missed it, the joke about that Abe had about arguing in the Parisian cafe, arguing about moral nihilism and compositional nihilism. I know nihilism, I know moral nihilism, but compositional nihilism was unfamiliar to me, so I looked it up. And what it breaks down to is that moral nihilism relates to ethics and compositional realism relates to ontology, to the study of reality. And where moral nihilism says it's very hard to draw a distinction between good and evil, they're very similar. Compositional nihilism says it's very hard to draw a distinction between the whole and the parts. So the example I read on Wikipedia, if you were to argue that a ball is composed of a bottom and a top, two parts, in compositional nihilism you question the relevance of those parts to the essence of the whole. I believe. Could be mistaken about the meaning of compositional nihilism, but I think I'm correct that moral nihilism is about ethics and compositional nihilism is about reality, ontology, the nature of reality. So the joke worked. It's funny. It's like, well, it didn't really matter. They were arguing these two things because, it's nihilism. That's good. But arguing about the categories of ethics and the categories of reality as though they were opposed, philosophically, doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. It's like arguing tennis against palm trees. They don't fit. They're very different in the realm of philosophy. Well, that's all I have for this week. I hope you'll join me again in the next installment. And until then, take care and be well. See that? See that in the box? It's not doing that.